This is Brian Urlacher, and make sure you tune in to Tailgate Talk with DC and Zay for your NFL talk on 95.9 FM and AM 610, The Sports Animal.
Yeah. First things first, I want to welcome you back to Zay Talks. Thank you for clicking on yet another video through this treacherous season it has been for us as Cowboy fans. But don't worry, don't you worry. If you thought the season was bad, if you thought last offseason was bad, because I know I thought it was terrible, it looks like we're in for another ride. It looks like we are in for another tough offseason with this owner/GM and possibly coach. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is what happens if Mike McCarthy is rehired. What can we do as fans to be optimistic moving forward? And how should we really handle this whole thing? And what can be fixed, right? Like, what can be fixed? And I want to hop right into it because I'm hard on Mike McCarthy. As a fan, I'm very hard on him. And it's a lot of times, yes, his play calling frustrates me. A lot of times, his time management, it frustrates me. But the number one thing you'll always hear me hit on is the penalty issue. There are way too many pre-snap penalties on the Dallas Cowboys that are coached by Mike McCarthy. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way around it. There's no way you can try to deny it. The only ones who will deny that Mike McCarthy is solely responsible for the penalties in Dallas, they're going to be your players. I would never call them players. They're going to be your people who have not played football before. The people who have not played football, especially those who haven't been on any type of like true sports team, they're not going to understand it. They're going to say, oh, it's the players. It's the players' fault. They don't understand that you can be the best player in the entire world and you still need a good coach to keep you in check, to keep you fresh, to keep you locked in and in tune with your positive habits. Good coaches inflate your positive habits and they kill the bad habits. That is why you'll see Dallas go and draft somebody who led college football in penalties for an offensive lineman, like Tyler Smith did. And now you see he's done a good job at not doing so. But that is a in-play thing. That's a blocking and holding thing. The Cowboys have pre-snap penalties, false starts, illegal formation, players not knowing what they're doing, too many men in the huddle. Those are coaches. That's a coaching problem. That is something a coach should fix. That's a coach's issue to get in there and fix. And Mike McCarthy does not do it. That's number one. Number two, the issue with Mike McCarthy. Let me throw this analogy out for you, okay? Imagine if every single NFL player that committed a penalty, a pre-snap penalty, imagine if they were fined $50,000. $50,000. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, let's say every NFL player who ever had a pre-snap penalty, a false start, illegal formation, anything like that, let's say they were fined $50,000 each. Do you think for 1 second that we would have this issue? Take the total number of pre-snap penalties for the NFL, and you can guarantee to cut that by at least 60%. If every player was fined $50,000 for a false start, I guarantee you there would not be nearly as many false starts. So take that and apply that to Dallas. That means that they don't care enough. So like if $50,000 would stop you from getting a false start, you should still not be getting the false start because you want to be a disciplined football player. If your coach has any discipline, if your coach instills any fear or respect out of his team, if he is somebody that can put his foot down, then you will not see players getting false starts. Why? Because you don't need a $50,000 fine. You're worried about getting chewed out. You're worried about getting pulled out of the game. You're worried about having to do extra conditioning at practice because of that false start. So you don't need $50,000 fine. But in Dallas, there's none of that. There's no repercussions for penalties. So therefore, what you see is the Cowboys leading the NFL in penalties since Mike McCarthy became the head coach. I'll say it again. I know I threw the little DAC stat out in the last video. I hope that stuck with you. I'm going to repeat this one because it's just as important. The Dallas Cowboys lead the NFL in penalties since Mike McCarthy became the head coach. This is not the Jacksonville Jaguars. These are not the New York Giants. They're not even the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to popularity. They are above all of those teams combined. You're dealing with a different monster when you're coaching the Cowboys. You're dealing with young 20-year-olds who are now the celebrities of the NFL because they have the star in their helmet. They need extra discipline. They need extra eyes overseeing them. They need extra things enforced at practice to lock them into football and not the stardom that comes with playing with the star on their helmet. Mike McCarthy's not that guy. If you get a team that's got prime Aaron Rodgers, who everyone knows, he'll be the one to chew you out. He'll be the one to cuss you out on the sideline if you cost them a drive. Mike McCarthy, didn't have to in Green Bay. Dallas doesn't have that guy. They don't have that guy that's on the sideline that's going to throw a fit if you make a mistake. So therefore, it's all good in Dallas. It's all, oh, well, we'll get him next time. That's the same exact reason why all the players constantly say they want him back. Oh, we like Coach Mike. We want Coach Mike to return. I bet you do, because you guys get to do whatever you want. You make your own rules. So it doesn't shock me that you want Mike McCarthy back. Not at all. Now, what do we as fans do if Mike McCarthy if he's brought back as a coach and Jerry Jones also continues to lay eggs and run his franchise like he has no idea how to be a GM? What do we do as fans? We have no choice. The merchandise, you got to stop buying the merchandise. You got to stop buying the merchandise. He needs to see a hit to the bottom line. That is the only way around it. We need to cut back on the merchandise. Okay, we can't have him seeing a packed house at training camp. Even if he brings back Mike McCarthy, if Jerry goes out and gets Ashton Genty, he saves face a little bit. He saves face just a little bit. Just a little bit. But not even Ashton Genty can fix false starts. What's he going to do? Come in as a rookie and enforce some discipline? That's not going to happen. What Jerry Jones needs to do this offseason, he needs to get Ashton Genty. He needs to get another defensive weapon. And we need to get Tyreek Hill. We need to get Ashton Genty, and we need to get Tyreek Hill. If he's smart enough to get rid of Mike McCarthy, go get Pete Carroll or John Gruden. I know John Gruden he's not viewed the best in the public eye, but look, all I need is him to come in and stop the penalties. Just stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding from the cuts that our team inflicts on itself. That's all we need. We don't need a mastermind. We don't need somebody to come in and that can run an offense, and that's for an offensive coordinator, okay? I think Mike Zimmer should have been able to save his job at the end of that season. I loved the way the defense was playing. I think that we need a new offensive coordinator that doesn't throw the ball on 3rd and 1 and then run it on 3rd and 6 and punt after both of those decisions. And we need a head coach to come in and enforce discipline. And then you will see a completely different Cowboys team. You will see a successful Cowboys football team. If Mike McCarthy comes back, here's the worst case scenario. Let me tell you the absolute worst case scenario for this offseason. And it's the most likely scenario. We keep McCarthy. We pass up on Genty. And we end up getting a wide receiver first. And we turn into the Cincinnati Bengals with less discipline and a worse quarterback. That's what we become. Worst case scenario. So a lot of you guys would love for this to happen. A lot of you guys want McCarthy back. You want a wide receiver first round. You don't want to go all in on a running back. And you want to look like the Cincinnati Bengals and throw the ball 35 times a game, okay, and live and die by Dak Prescott, who defensive coordinators can trick into throwing interceptions by giving him different looks and showing cover 2 but playing cover 3, showing cover 4 but playing cover 2. Defensive coordinators can get Dak like that. And you know what makes it easy? When we have no running game. But a lot of you guys want to see that. You want to see a high-flying offense. You don't want to see a gritty football team. The best case scenario is we get Gruden or Pete Carroll. We draft Ashton Genty. We still get some receiver later in the draft, but you get a defensive weapon, get a new offensive coordinator, and then boom. Boom. Don't forget, just a year and a half ago, Dak Prescott was second in MVP with this same receiving core. The same receiving core. He was second in MVP. So it's not desperation for receiver. That is the best case scenario for the Dallas Cowboys. Outside of Jerry giving up the GM position. But other than that, that's what we're working with. That's what we got to hope for. Okay. I know my last video was 40 minutes. I encourage you to go watch it because there's a lot of facts in there. There's a lot of facts in there. But Mike McCarthy, I don't want him back as the coach. But if he comes back as the coach, if there could just be some sort of discipline inflicted for penalties, he would be a fine coach. He would be perfectly fine. If he was to eliminate the play calling and time management issues and be a disciplinarian, he'd be the greatest coach in the NFL right now. He'd be Andy Reid, but he's not. So we got to work with what we can get. I don't want McCarthy back because I think he's a bad coach. I think he's a bad coach for the Cowboys. And that's a big difference. And I'm not just talking as a big-headed Cowboys fan. We're different than the rest of the NFL. Coaching the Cowboys is different than coaching any other team in sports. The Lakers and the Yankees are the only comparable things. So that's all I've got for you today. I'm at work, okay? So I got work. I got to go over here and produce the show. But I did want to get this video in, and I'm back in my original studio, which I kind of like it better in here than the other one. My face was all on the camera in the last one. I was rewatching it, did not like it at all. So I'm gonna try to stay in here, my home pretty much. I have a sleeping bag in the corner. Not really, but I should have one in the corner. But that's gonna wrap up this episode of Zay Talks. Please like and subscribe. My Cowboys fans, I know we're splitting up like oil and water, but we're in this together. I just need you guys to wisen up. I don't care about 12-4 seasons when we lead the league in penalties. You go find me homework for those who want McCarthy, the guy who's led the league in penalties for 5 straight years in total. He's top 5 every year. You go find me how many, if any, NFL team that's ever won the Super Bowl. So take what we want to accomplish. NFC Championship game, win the Super Bowl, either or. You go find me an NFL team that's pulled that off while they led the league in penalties. You go find me an NFL team that led the league in penalties, that had false start after false start after false start, and still found a way to win a championship, let alone get there, let alone get to the NFC Championship game. And if you can find that team, I guarantee there was Hall of Famers on there. So that's all I got for you today. Zay Talks out. We're going to get back on the next one, hopefully after some McCarthy news. You guys have a good one.